Good morning, students. In the chapter 3 of Plant Kingdom, we have studied the things that are starting from primitive plants, likewise algae, and then after bryophytes. Now it's time to learn pteridophytes. So we have seen that in the case of bryophytes, the bryophytes are termed as amphibians of plant kingdom because as they live in soil but their reproduction needs water as a medium. That's why they are the amphibians of the plant kingdom. We have seen the two major classes that falls under bryophytes are liverworts and mosses. So here they are of the ecological importance as they can cover the hilly areas as well as the grounds. That's why they can prevent erosion of soil. They are the plants in which reproduction can be done sexually or by budding method. Here in the case of pteridophytes include horsetails and ferns. The pteridophytes are used for medicinal purposes and as soil binders. So here we can say that the plants, they are like horsetails and ferns. That means ferns, that means the feathers of the birds, and the horsetails, that means the tail of horse-like structure of that plant. They are used for medicinal purpose. That means most of the Indian medicine that requires pteridophytes as their contents and as soil binders also. That means they can also prevent soil from being erosion. They are also frequently grown as ornamentals. That means tremendously found on the soil. That's why our earth is look like a bride. Evolutionary, they are the first terrestrial plants to possess vascular tissues. That means both xylem and phloem. That means here what? We can say that xylem and the phloem tissue, they are necessary for water and food transport. These are not the plants that bear fruits, but even though they have more complexity in tissue formation. That's why vascular tissues of xylem and phloem are present here. You shall study more about these tissues in chapter 6. So, these are the tissue we can say that are necessary for transport mechanism in plants. The food that is prepared by leaves and the water that is sucked from the soil that is transported through these vascular tissues. The pteridophytes are found in cool, damp, shady places, though same may flourish well in sandy soil conditions. That means we have to say that the atmospheric condition which will not hesitate their growth, which will not affect that growth, because sandy soil also flourish well these pteridophytes. The pteridophytes are found in cool, damp, steady places. You may recall that in bryophytes, the dominant phase in the life cycle is the gametophytic plant body. That means what? Here, the dominant, that means the chief phase in their life cycle is gametophytic plant body. So afterwards the plant body will produce the gametes from the different sex organs. However, in the pteridophytes, the main plant body is a sporophyte, which is differentiated into true root, stem and leaves. So we can compare bryophytes here, because in the case of bryophytes we have studied they are not bearing the true leaves, true stems or true roots. Roots, stems and leaves are more differentiated in the pteridophytes family plants. These organs possess well differentiated vascular tissues. That means the leaves in Pteridophyta are small as in Selaginella or large as in ferns. That means the leaves are small in Selaginella and they are large in ferns. That means we can say that they can bear both the shapes of leaves, small as well as large, depending on the differences in the plant. The sporophytes bear sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages called sporophytes. Sporophytes in that the sporangium will be formed and the spores will be produced. In some cases, sporophylls may form distinct compact structures called strobili or cones. That means here the cone-shaped strobili are produced. The sporangia produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cells. So what is spore mother cell? These cells which have more eventual cytoplasm, more thickened cytoplasm, well defined nucleus along with the genetic material, all the organelles in them. From that the particular mother cell will be originated, and this will then differentiate to form sporophylls, and then after meiosis will be there and the spores will be produced from these mother cells. The spores germinate to give rise to inconspicuous small but multicellular organ that are free living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes and are called as prothallus. That means thallus but more defining structures, because here the true leaves, true stems and true roots are there. That's why we can say that it's the prothallus. Thallus is there, but here the differentiation is more as compared to bryophytes. So here we can say that the plant body here in case of pteridophyte is more complex as compared to bryophytes. How so? In the case of bryophytes, no particular vascular tissues are there. no xylem, no phloem are there. But in the case of pteridophytes, true leaves, true stems, true roots are here. And the more complexity in the case of transportation of food and water, that means xylem and phloem is there. So they both are then doing the more complexity in the case of pteridophytes. So, in the case of this prothallus, the gametophytes that will formed. These gametophytes require cool, damp, shady places to grow. Because of this specific restricted requirement and the need for water for fertilization, the spread of living pteridophytes is limited and restricted to narrow geographical regions. That means they are not abundantly found in nature. Why? Because of their requirement is more unique as compared to bryophytes. Although they can cover the regions, but their need is somewhat more as compared to them. Because the gametophytes to germinate, they require cool, damp, shady places to grow. And because of this specific restricted requirement, their need for the water for fertilization, the spread of living is somewhat limited as compared to bryophytes. The gametophytes bear male and female sex organs called antheridia and archegonia respectively. Water is required for transfer of antherozoids, the male gametes, released from the antheridia to the mouth of archegonium, which is the female organ. So the fusion of male gamete with the egg present in the archegonium result in the formation of zygote. Zygote thereafter produces multicellular, well-differentiated sporophyte, which is the dominant phase of the pteridophytes. We have seen that in the case of bryophytes, where the predominant stage for bryophyte, in particular in the case of mosses, is gametophytic stage. But here in the case of pteridophytes, the sporophytic stage, that is somewhat more dominant as compared to them. Zygote thereafter produces multicellular, well-differentiated sporophyte, which is the dominant phase of the pteridophytes. In majority of the pteridophytes, all the spores are of similar kinds. Such plants are called homosporous. Genera like Selaginella and Salvinia, which produce two kinds of spores. Macro, that means one is large, and the other one that is micro, that is small. So they are known as heterosporous. The megaspores and microspores germinate and give rise to female and male gametophytes respectively, so that gametes will be produced from them. The female gametophytes in these plants are retained on the parent sporophytes for variable periods. That means their maturity that is varied from each other. The development of zygotes into young embryo take place within the female gametophytes, likewise in the higher plants. So this event is a precursor to the seed habit, considered as an important step in evolution. Likewise in the case of angio and the gymnosperm plants, here in them we can say that On the female sex organ, the pollen grains will be then after the zygote formation and all other post-fertilization techniques will be there. So likewise, here we can say that the pteridophytes are the precursor, or we can say that the predecessor for the seed habit. That means here not the particular seeds are grown, but they have some similarity in their structures to grow as a higher plant. We can say that they are the primitive bodies for seed habits. So the pteridophytes are further classified into 4 classes: Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida and Pteropsida. For Psilopsida, the example is Psilotum. For Lycopsida, the examples are Selaginella and Lycopodium. For Sphenopsida, the example is Equisetum. And for Pteropsida, the examples are Dryopteris, Pteris and Adiantum. We can further learn about pteridophytes. Firstly, what are they? Pteridophytes, they are having structures of their plant body as horsetails and ferns. They are used for medicinal purposes and as the soil binders, as in the case of bryophytes. Here, the more complexity in body organization is what they have vascular tissues presence. That means both xylem and the phloem fibers. We can say that the pteridophytes, they can grow best in cool shady areas, but even in the soily or sandy region they can flourish well, but they require some nourishment there. Here in the case of pteridophytes, they are differentiated for sporophytic and gametophytic phases. Here the dominant sporophytic stage will be there. Dominant case for bryophytes is, we have seen that, gametophyte. But here in the case of pteridophytes, the main chief region is saprophyte, sporophyte, which is differentiated into true leaf, stem and leaves. So here the 2 types of gametes are also being produced from different sex organs. The male sex organ, that is antheridium, which produces male gametes, and the female sex organs containing egg, which is archegonium. So the transfer of the male gamete to the female sex organ, which will then form zygote. So here this process of post-fertilization, that is somewhat more similar as compared to gymno and the angiosperm families of plants. So they are the precursor, predecessor for seed bearing trees. They are further classified into 4 main classes. They are Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida and Pteropsida. And the examples for Psilopsida are Xylotum. Lycopsida, they are Selaginella and Lycopodium. Sphenopsida, that is Equisetum, and for Pteropsida, that is Triopsis, Pteris and Adiantum. So here the spores produced are of 2 types: those who are similar in size, they are homosporous, and those who are different in sizes like macro and the microspore, they are termed as heterosporous. Thank you so much. The next topic will be learned by us next day. Thank you.